Did you know that billions of dollars worth of illegal transactions happen on the dark web every year? It's a hidden world full of secrets, dangers, and eerie mysteries. Some say it's just a tool, while others have stumbled upon things that turned their dark web experience into a nightmare. Tonight, I've got some scary dark web stories that will give you nightmares because they'll take you deep into the shadows of the internet, where unsettling encounters and disturbing tales unfold. Hey guys, welcome back to Hauntingly Yours. Just a quick shout out to Drescheno and Possession Informal 49 for these awesome stories. You can find their YouTube channels and Reddit profiles in the description. Definitely check them out. I had a blast with these, and I think you'll enjoy them too. Alright, let's get into today's scary dark web stories on Hauntingly Yours. I used to be a normal person. I just want to get that out clear, first of all. Yeah, I had a few strange hobbies, but when this all started out, I was just like your average Joe. One of my strange hobbies was browsing the deep web. It was mostly out of curiosity, let me assure you. I wasn't involved in anything shady, and also made sure to take adequate precautions. One day I was just looking at random web pages when I stumbled upon a curious one. It had a simple message written there. Hello there. Are you perhaps interested in buying other people's souls? I've been collecting people's souls for a very long time, and I have a bit extra. It was one of the most basic web pages that you could imagine, with only an address on where to send the Bitcoin to buy one. I laughed when I saw this. I had seen my share of scams on the deep web, but this one was new. I went to close the window before something popped up on my screen. Hello there. I see you're browsing my site. My heart nearly froze when I saw it was a chat box, but I was sure the security measures I had taken were sufficient to prevent someone from tracking me or hacking into my computer. So how did this pop-up appear out of nowhere? Relax. I just noticed that you were going to leave without buying anything. It seems you haven't been convinced that what I'm selling is real. Why not try a free sample? A simple yes and no dialog box appeared. Now I should have clicked on no, but in my curiosity, I clicked on yes. A bad decision in hindsight. But I wanted to know where this was going, and I was a bit too confident in my own ability to shield myself from the danger lurking on the internet. It's rather hard to explain what possessing a soul is like. You probably think that a soul is immutable, or indestructible in other words, and you'd be right. In that moment, I could tell in my head that I held a single soul, but there was also a way for me to manifest it in the real world. It appeared as a tiny ball of light, no bigger than the smallest bone in your pinky. I reached out to touch it, and a flood of memories rushed into my head. The soul belonged to a woman by the name of Alexandra Cortez. She had not had a very happy childhood, and had escaped her home when she turned 16. A few bad decisions involving drugs left her with nothing, and she was slowly dying. It was here that her memories became less clear. There was a strange shadow that I could see, but nothing clearer than that. Mind you, everything else I could see was as clear as if I was the one experiencing it. But this figure was covered in what I could only describe as dark smog. She had sold her soul to this thing in exchange for money. The rest of her life was rather good. Not fantastic by any means, but it was still decent. and paradise compared to what she had suffered earlier. It all ended one day when she was walking along a dark street corner and a man ambushed her. She died that night, though not before hours of torture at his hands. There was far more, of course. I had her entire life in my hands, but I only put down the important bits, given that her whole biography could fill several books. That wasn't all, though. I could hear her thoughts as I held her soul in my hand. She was pleading, begging me to let her go. Now you're probably wondering what the afterlife is like. I have to confess, I never found out, just that there was something beyond where souls could go. After listening to her pleadings, I agreed to let her go. Much as I said earlier, I can't really explain how I let her go, just that I did. She vanished before me, and the light also went away with her, leaving my mind completely clear. I thought what had happened was just some sort of odd hallucination, or rather I hoped that that was what it was. I didn't want to believe there was some monster collecting souls around on the internet. That was until 4 days later when I got an anonymous email linking back to that site. Hello there. I hope you enjoyed your free sample. Perhaps you would like to purchase another. We're having a sale now. The mail confirmed for me that it wasn't some weird fever dream, and after a moment's hesitation, I decided to make an actual purchase. I should have realized that something was wrong the moment I saw the prices. They were dirt cheap, which made very little sense, given what I learned later on. I got the souls of 3 more women, and they were quite similar in many ways. Much like with Alexandra, I couldn't see the entity they sold their souls to properly. The amounts of money they got for their souls were quite staggering. I had barely paid a fraction of what they received. Again, that should have told me that something was off about this whole thing, but I was rather oblivious to the fact then. What I was more focused on was that they had all died in similar ways, by being ambushed by a man. They never saw his face, though, but they had all died in agonizing ways. Letting their souls go free brought a certain peace to my mind. Kind of like animal rights activists who buy animals intended for slaughter and then release them, I guess. Except I was releasing these human souls not from death, but from damnation. I highly doubted that whatever entity bought them in the first place was kind to them. I bought another one a few days afterward, and it was here that things took a dark turn. It was the soul of a man named Christopher. I don't want to share his full name here, but that hadn't even been what I had been concentrating on at the time. No, when I went through the memories of his life, I was sickened by what I saw. This man was a serial killer. Those 4 women I told you about earlier. He was the one who had killed them. He had done it to over 17 more. The mere thought of it made me want to throw up. Again, I couldn't see the figure to whom he sold his soul to. He hadn't done it for money. No, he had been caught by the police and had exchanged his soul for getting out of jail. Some sort of legal loophole was there because the police didn't document a piece of evidence correctly, and he was let go, and he killed again and again. 10 more victims before being caught and given the death penalty. Much like those before him, he begged to be released, but no sort of compassion emerged in my mind. I was sickened by what he had done, and appalled that he had suffered so little compared to his victims. In my rage, I took hold of his soul and wondered what I could do with it. I could now hear him pleading again in my mind, but I ignored that and lit the stove. I then dropped the small ball of light onto the flame. Oh, he definitely felt that. He couldn't die, but he could feel the flame consume him. I could hear his screams, and though at first I was disgusted with myself, I learned to live with it. This man had no regrets or remorse for what he had done, aside from the fact that he was dead. It became a daily routine for me. I would try to find new ways to torment him. I would stick him in my freezer. I would stab his soul with a knife. I even thought about buying acid from somewhere to dip him in, but that would have raised too many questions, so I gave up on that. I never really considered myself to be a vindictive person, but I think it was because I had been so close to some of his victims and had felt all they felt when they died that I did what I did. Once you've held someone's soul in your hand, you can't help but get a little attached. Eventually, I got tired of this after a few weeks and let him go. But in case you're worried, I assure you he suffered 10 times worse than what he had dealt out. I then bought another soul a couple of weeks later. This one belonged to a woman who had killed 3 of her own children. My heart was hardened from before, and I went about my way, making sure she got what she deserved. It continued like that. Nearly every soul that I bought was some sort of horrible criminal. I didn't get any innocence to release like I did earlier, and I was okay with that. I was no longer buying souls with the purpose of saving them from the clutches of a demon. I wanted the souls of sinners so that I could punish them. After a few times, it gave me a weird, giddy feeling in my stomach whenever I would sit down and think about what I would do to them. Soon, my apartment had over 24 of them. I spent nearly every free waking hour tormenting them as much as I could. I had pretty much given up on all of my other hobbies, and even hanging out with my friends or family. There's no easy way to describe it, but there's something really amazing about owning someone else's soul. Once you get past how twisted it initially feels, to have so much power over someone else, it just feels incredible in a way I can't put into words. Not to mention there was little guilt involved now, since I knew the people I was lording over deserved everything they got. It was more addicting than anything I had ever tried before. Eventually, I ran into a small roadblock, though. The prices for the souls increased. Exponentially, I should add. They were worth right about how much they should have been. I had already released a good number, and was quite frustrated that I couldn't get my hands on some more. I got an email a few days after that. "Hey there, champ. Seems that you're a bit short on cash lately, but since you've been such a great customer, I was thinking that you could have a few of them for free. With a few strings attached, of course. I just need you to do a few things for me. Consider it a kind of job." I barely even read the conditions as I agreed to it. That was just how much I was hooked. Now, I have over 100 souls. I spend all of my time dealing with them. My new boss, although I've never met him, is pretty great. I have a quota of how many souls I have to torture in a day, and so long as I do that, I can keep getting new ones. Not only that, but I also get paid to do this. I've quit my job and torture these people full-time now. Not everything has been great, though. I have noticed a few changes when it comes to my body recently. There are 2 small bumps on the top of my head that just won't go away. I've been meaning to go to a doctor but haven't found the time. My skin has begun to turn a shade of grey, and I feel something growing out of my back. But really, I can't be bothered with all of that. A new shipment of souls has come from the website, and I need to get to work on them. I don't want my new boss to become angry, and anyway, to be honest, I just really enjoy doing this. A few months ago, I started dabbling in the dark web, not for anything illegal, just out of curiosity. I wanted to see if the stories were true. Hackers selling government secrets, hitmen offering their services, and the unthinkable lurking just a click away. Most of what I found were scams or overpriced junk. Then I stumbled onto something that felt different. a forum called Reflections. The layout was simple, just a black screen with red text. The tagline read, "Find yourself in others." I assumed it was some philosophical nonsense or a creative writing forum, but one thread caught my attention. Doppelgängers. Post your match. Curiosity piqued. I clicked. The thread contained hundreds of pictures of people. Random selfies, candid shots, even surveillance-style images, all with timestamps. And beneath each photo was another image, a match. Sometimes the resemblance was uncanny, like identical twins. Other times it was off. A person's smile might be too wide, their eyes just slightly misaligned, or their skin a shade too pale. Scrolling down, I froze. There was my face. The first photo was a candid shot of me at a coffee shop. I recognized the hoodie I wore last week and the chipped paint on the chair I was sitting on. The timestamp was from 5 days ago. Below it was another photo. My match. This version of me was smiling, but it wasn't a normal smile. It was too sharp, stretched wider than physically possible, like someone had grabbed the edges of my mouth and pulled. My eyes were slightly sunken, and my skin looked waxy, but it was me. My heart raced. I hadn't shared that photo anywhere. Someone had taken it. I clicked back to the main page, panicked, but I couldn't leave. Every time I hit the back button, I'd end up on another thread titled "Find Yourself." The screen glitched. A pop-up appeared. Do you accept your reflection? 2 buttons, yes and no. I slammed the no button. My screen went black. For a moment I thought I'd bricked my laptop, but then my webcam light flickered on. I panicked, slamming the lid shut, but not before I caught a glimpse of the screen. It was me, but I wasn't sitting at my desk anymore. The room behind me was a basement I didn't recognize, and the expression on my face wasn't mine. It was the same too wide smile from the photo. I unplugged my laptop and shoved it under my bed. That night, I barely slept. The next day, I got a text from an unknown number. "Why don't you smile more?" Attached was a photo of me sitting in my living room. I don't go near the dark web anymore. Hell, I don't even use my computer without a piece of tape over the webcam. But it doesn't matter. Everywhere I go now, I see it. My face. Reflected in windows, in passing cars, in shadows that move just a second too late. It's always smiling. I can't be very detail specific here due to the nature of my job, but I will try my best to communicate the story as best as I can. I work in the cybercrimes division of a law enforcement agency. That's about as specific I can get, and I want to be clear here. Most of the stories that you read about the dark web are outright fabrications. The tales of red rooms and stories of hiring hitman are practically universally untrue. Most crime takes place on your normal everyday web. One Tuesday afternoon, though, I got a call saying there was a new case for me. Well, the officer on the other end of the call didn't seem to be too sure that it was a case for me, but wanted me to have a look anyway. I went down to talk to 2 young boys. Both of them were teenagers, likely still in high school. I was wondering what this was all even about when one of them started blabbering about something they got off the dark web. Apparently the 2 of them were doing a TikTok or YouTube challenge. I can't care to remember which one it was, but they were looking for things to buy off the dark web. Again, honestly, there's very little actual shady activity that goes on the dark web, unless you want to buy drugs, so the 2 of them were mainly disappointed. Until they found a site that sold books, one of which they bought. I was then handed the book in question. I put on a pair of gloves and flipped through it. It was filled with photos of a young lady. Initially they were of her smiling, and in locations such as that of a meadow or city square, though as it went on they became more provocative, for a lack of a better term. She began wearing outfits like a maid uniform or a catgirl cosplay, and the last few photos were of her wearing nothing. "Is this all you wanted to show me?" I asked, wondering what the fuss was about. It was then that I was handed a card, one that had come with the book. It said, "Thank you for your purchase, dear customer. Inside, you can find a treasure trove of photos of a young girl, though that's not all that's special about this book. To make sure that it is truly one of a kind, we made sure that you could get the full experience. The book is bound with her skin, so feel free to gently caress the leather as you think of her. Again, thank you for your purchase." At this point, I should probably mention for those who might be unaware what anthropomorphic bibliopagy is. It's the name for the practice of binding a book with human skin. I probably don't need to say this, but it is illegal. Even assuming the skin was from a cadaver, you'd run into laws dealing with human remains. This card, though, from what was written on it, it was made to sound as if the skin had been taken from the girl while she was alive. Well, either that, or she had been killed and then skinned specifically to make this book. I thought the whole thing was an elaborate joke. My first hunch was that the two boys were in on it, but they seemed too scared for it to be a hoax on their end. I interviewed the two of them separately, and their stories held up. All right, perhaps they were telling the truth, but that didn't mean that the book was really bound with human skin. Even if it felt like leather, it was most likely animal leather, and all of this was added for flavor. I told the officer in charge of the case just that, and said that there was no real need to investigate further, though I did give the young boys a warning regarding buying things off of sketchy websites, and that's when the case ended. Or so I thought. As it turns out, the officer in charge of the case decided that, on the off chance that it was real, he would get the book tested. And it turned out the leather binding the book was, as a matter of fact, from human skin. As you can imagine, interest in the case surged after that. We were dealing with a potential murder case now, and we called the two boys back. I was also brought back on board to try to get to the root of things, and I was able to get the .tor address of the site they used. Unfortunately, all I got was an error message when I used that link. I did some more sleuthing, but that got me nowhere. Frustrated, I turned to other sources for help, but there was little progress that I was able to make. A DNA test of the skin didn't reveal anything, and we searched far and wide to see if anyone recognized the girl in those photos. No match to date. The case was about to turn cold when I managed to find an unexpected lead. On a forum, I caught wind of someone else who had purchased a similar book and was confused regarding the veracity of what was claimed about it. It was 3 states over, but we managed to track down the poster, who was a woman who had bought it out of morbid curiosity. Forensic testing revealed the cover was made of human skin as well. She had a different Tor link, one which I tried, and this one actually worked. The site by itself was nothing very impressive. It was as basic as could be, kind of like old sites back in the 2000s. I would have thought that it was a cheap prank based on this alone, but the 2 cases made me hold back my skepticism. I took screenshots of the website and confirmed with the 2 boys who first came to us with this case that this was the site we were looking for. Both of the books had been mailed from fake addresses from mailboxes within large cities, so there was little to go on there. Given this, we decided to try the site for ourselves, and I placed an order. only for nothing to turn up. If anything, what happened was that the site's URL no longer worked, and it's here where things took a sinister turn. One of the boys, the one who had actually ordered the book, went missing one day. He was coming back home from school and then, well, there was no further trace of him. A manhunt for months came up with nothing, until one day the other boy came to us saying that someone had delivered a piece of paper to his house. It wasn't a normal piece of paper. It was a roll of parchment. Testing later revealed that the skin was human, and it was from the boy who had gone missing. Upon it, written with what was later confirmed to be blood, were the words, "Stay out of our business." Eventually, all leads went cold after that, and it's been so for over 5 years. I've since moved on, or so I thought. There are still times when I think about the 2 girls and what fate awaited them, as well as that of the young boy. Who were these people making these kinds of books? I don't think I'll ever get an answer, but I am posting this here as a warning. For one, be careful who you meet online. You wouldn't want to end up like one of those girls. And 2, and most importantly, if you ever find a similar website, contact your local authorities, but do not buy anything off of it. You don't know where it's from after all. I am what you'd call a crypto addict. Before that, though, I was someone who enjoyed browsing the deep web. I wasn't really looking for anything in particular, just curious as to whether or not the stories I had heard were true. I never really found anything that creepy, though, but it was my first encounter with Bitcoin. A few sites used it, and it was the first time I'd ever heard of the cryptocurrency. As such, though, I had thought that it was a scam or something shady at that point. This was back in the years 2012 to 2014, so as you can imagine, I'm really kicking myself for thinking that and not buying a few coins. My interest in the deep web waned over time, but around the year 2017, I began reading about cryptocurrency and that oh-so-shady thing, Bitcoin, on mainstream news outlets. That's when I made a deeper dive into the world of crypto. My goal at the beginning was just to earn enough money to pay off my student loans. Of course, nothing was ever that easy. I had made nearly every single mistake you could make while buying crypto. Once, I lost my seed phrase. I've sent crypto to the wrong wallet by mistake. I've FOMO'd and sold at a loss countless times. Twice, I've been fooled by pump and dump schemes. Despite all of this, my net monetary change from buying into crypto has still been positive overall. That's mainly because I wisened up over the years and made back the money I lost, and then some. Of course, every time I hear about a random coin going up 20 times in price, I do wish I would have seen the opportunity. But I know most of those coins probably don't have much value or long-term prospects. I invest in safe projects. But of course, like almost anyone else, I've been on the lookout for the next big thing. You know, the next big project that's going to the moon, so to speak. I got an email from an old acquaintance of mine. Let's call him Frank. Frank and I go back to the days when I scoured the deep web, and the 2 of us would often exchange information regarding anything interesting that we'd found. I hadn't gotten a message from him in 2 years, though, so I was kind of surprised. "Hey, I know it's been a while, but I saw this weird thing and I think you'd want to check it out. I see from your profile that you've been in the crypto space for a while, right? What do you think about this? It's a site claiming to have made a new kind of coin." There was a link to a website. At first, I was really confused. This website was on the deep web, but according to this mail, it was regarding a new crypto coin. That made no sense. When you make a new coin, one of the first things you want to do is get as many people in on the project as possible. Making all information about your new coin exclusive to the deep web was a guarantee that it would probably never take off. Then again, maybe they were making some sort of super secure coin which the government couldn't trace, so they kept it on the down low. Regardless, I decided to check out the link. The website was honestly nothing to write home about. It was decently organized but was rather plain. It looked like a web page from 2007. This was definitely the wrong thing to do if you wanted people to be interested in what you were doing or convincing them that you had a great new idea for something. There wasn't even too much information on the site about the coin itself, with most of it linking to a video they had made. There was a forum, but accessible only to members. Guessing there was nowhere else to go, I went ahead and clicked on the video. It showed a dark room with a desk right in the middle. Someone walked in wearing a white mask and a dark hoodie. As he spoke, his voice was distorted, so he was clearly using a filter of some sort.
Greetings. Thank you for your interest in our new project, one by which we hope to revolutionize the very concept of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. I have long since been a member of the crypto space, but I consider myself to be an environmentalist first. You must have already heard about the environmental impact that mining cryptocurrency has. Many people have spoken about that. As such, we wanted to look for a way to solve this problem. A solution quickly came to me, but it was a bit of an unorthodox one. You see, I am a man of many interests, and the occult was one of them. One thing I had always been told was that spirits, demons, they always know everything going on in the world. They don't follow the normal laws of physics either.
It was at this point that I began frowning. What on earth was this? Was this guy really talking about ghosts and spirits in a crypto video?
I thought that it might be possible to use this to our advantage. You see, a spirit can theoretically solve a problem in an instant. Time works differently for them, and the best part is, the environmental impact is nil.
I was just about ready to turn this off at this point. What kept me going was a mild curiosity regarding where this guy was going. This had to be some sort of scam, right? But what was the scam? Was he going to ask for a donation first? Or was he just trying to install malware on my computer? I mean, he must have made this video for a reason, right? I just wanted to know what the scam was, so I could tell Frank what it was.
I searched around in many books on the occult until I came upon them. They do have a name, but not one that you can speak freely in this tongue. Suffice it to say that certain supernatural creatures are willing to help us and mine our coin for us. Now, of course, you must be thinking that such a thing isn't worth your soul. Rest assured, though, that these creatures don't want our souls, simply our bodies. I told them that in that case, they should buy us all a round of drinks first.
He chuckled at his own joke.
Anyway, the idea is simple. You, as a human, can rent out your body for a small portion of the day. In exchange, these creatures will mine coins for you. That's right. I managed to connect the spirit realm with the internet so that they can mine cryptocurrency for us. Right now, we are starting out with mining Bitcoin by this method to test it out, but we'll release our own project very soon. I can say, though, that I am quite excited by the potential of our upcoming coin, as it will be mined only by these entities. All information would be held not only on the internet, but within the spirit realm as well. So even if every database on Earth was wiped clean, we could recover the data. For now, though, we are just seeing how easy it is to mine Bitcoin using this method. If you're interested in renting out yourself, you can go ahead and sign the contract given on our site. If you're interested in simply buying some of our own coins when our new project is released by conventional methods, please stay tuned for further updates. Thank you.
The video ended at that, and I was left confused. Making this all would have taken some cash and some time. So was it all really just a hoax? How were they planning on making money out of this? With no further information available, I checked out their forums, but that was only open to people who had signed their contract for now. I took a look at this contract. It was needlessly long and annoyed me, because I knew there was no way that a site like this could ever take anyone to court if the contract was violated. So what was the point? The gist of the whole thing was that you would agree to rent out your body for a time ranging from 1 to 10 hours a day. In exchange, you would get a set amount of Bitcoin per day, with it increasing depending on how long you rented yourself out. For example, if you got X amount of Bitcoin for 1 hour, you'd get 20 times that amount for 10 hours. It was clearly designed to make people choose the longest time possible. Frustrated, I put down my selection as 1 hour and hit accept. A message popped up. This contract will be valid for 1 year and cannot be cancelled before then. Are you sure you want to accept? I scoffed at the idea of them trying to enforce this contract and hit the accept button. A congratulatory message popped up, as well as an address to a wallet I could unlock. Disappointed, I browsed the site a bit more and saw nothing to explain what it really was. I could only chalk this all up to a very elaborate hoax. The next day, I went about my day as usual when something odd happened as I left my driveway. I found myself in my office an instant later. If I had been paying a bit more attention at the time, I would have noticed that I had lost exactly 1 hour, but I wasn't. I had zoned out while driving to work occasionally, but not when I was entering the building. I chalked it up to me just having a long daydream, though. Things didn't worry me. Not yet, at least. Something similar happened the next day, though I had some trouble noticing this, as it happened when I was chilling around at home, and I just thought I'd lost track of time as the sky suddenly became a lot darker. The third day, though, it happened at work. I was in a meeting, and then it was over, and I was at my desk. On one hand, I was happy to be able to skip that meeting, but also I knew I was losing my mind. The MRIs all came back normal, and the doctors thought I had dissociative identity disorder, when a month later, I found myself in my house with some jewelry I had no recollection of getting. I learned the next day that one of my neighbors had been mugged, but I didn't know who it was. That day, I suddenly found myself in a park with a shard of glass on my shoulder. I learned that someone had smashed another neighbor's car. Fed up with this, I installed cameras around the house to watch me, and that night, I saw myself leave the house and come back later with some cash. Cash I must have stolen. Yeah, I learned someone's house had been broken into the day after that. I finally put 2 and 2 together and went back to the website. I hadn't checked my wallet, but it had a substantial amount of Bitcoin now. Clearly, this thing hadn't been a hoax. They wouldn't be paying me if they weren't getting something out of it. Whatever entity chose to inhabit my body started out by just mimicking what I normally did, but it was clear it was getting more and more daring with the theft and vandalism it was doing. I read up on that long contract again, and I saw no termination clause. I can't exactly communicate with this thing that takes control of me, and even if I could, I have a feeling that it doesn't want to leave. Forum posts on that site are of no help, as a few people seem to be in the same boat as me, but have no idea what to do. The site doesn't have a customer service section, to no surprise. Based on what I've read of the contract, the entity can't hurt me or my property. or do a crime that would lead to me being arrested or the like. But it can commit a crime, as long as it makes sure that I'm not caught later on. Anyway, I highly doubt it wants me to be arrested. It wouldn't have as much fun as when I'm free to roam around. In the end, though, I realized that I couldn't live like this. There was nothing else to do but wait for my contract to expire. So I've moved to a very remote area where there are few people around. I'm glad for that, so the thing can't harm anyone else. I've even had to give my dog away to my parents for the time being. I don't know if she'd count as my property, but I don't want that thing hurting her one day. I read on a forum post on that site about someone who found themselves with blood on their hands after a blackout and was freaking out while wondering whose it was. It's obviously much worse for those who rented out their bodies for several hours. I guess I should be thankful I only agreed to an hour. I've quit my job, and I only go out to town to get supplies when the hour is up. I thought about maybe tying myself up so I can't get out, but I'd still need to do things like go to the bathroom, and that sounds like a terrible way to live. It's been 3 months total, and there are 9 left. The coins I keep getting are enough to pay my living expenses, thankfully. I might have had to rent myself out for longer if that wasn't the case. I'm writing this because I was curious if there's a lawyer among you who might be willing to read over the contract I agreed to. If every contract has a loophole, I'd be happy if you could find one in this one. I can't go to a regular attorney, of course, given no one would believe me. I mean, where would I even go to dispute this? But if there's someone among you who is experienced with dealing with supernatural contracts, please contact me. If possible, I would also prefer it if you could accept payments in Bitcoin. So, what did you think of today's dark web stories? Ever been on the dark web yourself? If you have, I'd love to hear about your experience, though I won't be going anywhere near it anytime soon. If these scary dark web stories had you second-guessing what's lurking in the shadows, drop a comment and let me know which one gave you chills. A huge thanks to the incredible story owners for sharing their work. You'll find their links in the description, so be sure to check them out. If you enjoyed today's stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. I post twice a week, because let's be honest, once just isn't enough. Until next time, this is your very own Mr. Hauntingly Yours, signing off for the night.